What the fuck is up, everyone? Prison Meddler here. Well, let me get the lights on. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot to turn on the lights to see my face. But anyway, yeah, back with another reviewing and rating every album video. And today I will be reviewing every In Flames albums. So there you go. As you may know, just like usual, 0 out of 5 being the worst, 5 out of 5 being the best. I'm not reviewing EPs, compilations, demos, or live albums. Just the full-length studio albums only. And this is going to be a little longer video because there's 14 albums right now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty. Now starting up, we got is their debut album, Lunar Strain, released in April 1994 off of Wrong Again Records. Well, 3 record labels, as you should say. But anyway, yeah, as you know, this is their only album with Michael Stain, or Michael Stain, or whatever, Michael Stain, I can't pronounce the name. They're a Swedish band. Who is currently the vocalist from Dark Tranquillity. And here's another fun fact. The original vocalist, which is Michael Stain from In Flames, is currently the vocalist from Dark Tranquillity. The original member from In Flames, which is Anders, is currently the vocalist from the original vocalist from Dark Tranquillity, I should say. I'm not sure if I said it wrong. If I said In Flames wrong. The original vocalist from In Flames is now the vocalist of Dark Tranquillity. The original vocalist from Dark Tranquillity is now the vocalist for In Flames. Yeah, they swapped role. They swapped bands with each other. But anyway, back to the album. Yeah, it's a really strong debut album. It's got a lot of folk elements in it, like especially with the acoustic guitar. It got some black metal elements to it and such. So, yeah, I mean, really, really very strong debut. It holds off very strong. Start off with Behind Space. Really strong way to open the track and the introduction of In Flames. And it's got some other elements too. Like, I love the song Everlost. For some reason, they're split in 2 tracks. It's one song, but split in 2 tracks. It starts off, it has this like doom metal element throughout, and then the outro. Part 2 of the song is just the outro, which is it has a woman singing and such with an acoustic guitar playing. It just sounds so beautiful. Sorry, that's my cat that's meowing at me. But anyway, then we got the title track, In Flames. Really a great song. I pretty much like all tracks on this album, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, I just really, really enjoy this album. So, I'm going to go for a strong 4 to 5. Probably lean towards a 4.5. It's a really great debut album. So, there we go. Alright, next up we got is The Jester Race, released February 20th, 1996, off of Nuclear Blast Records. Now, in my opinion, I think this is In Flames' best album. And because I always think this is their best album. Out of all 5 classic In Flames albums, this is my favorite. I know some people may pick Clayman or Horkle or Colony, but Jester Race is my personal favorite. And as you know, first album with Anders, as you know, him and Michael swapped bands, which Michael is now in Dark Tranquillity and Anders is now in Flames. And as you know, this has got to be one of the best Melodeath albums of all time. As you know, it pretty much defined the genre. It's one of the most important, along with Dark Tranquillities, The Gallery, and At the Gate, Slaughter of the Soul. As one of the more pioneers to the genre, it causes a lot more attention, and it's influenced so many bands, like many melodic metalcore bands, even newer metalcore bands that started coming out today. I mean, it's not just one of the most important albums in Melodeath history. I think it's probably one of the most important albums in metal history. Like, if you're a metal fan, and if you don't like this album, something's pretty much wrong with you. Like, to tell you the truth, I'm just being honest. Like, let's be honest. The opening track, Moonshield, oh my god, it's one of the best ways to open a track. And then we got the Jester's Dance, which is an instrumental. Throughout the album is full of amazing riffs, amazing melodies, everything in this album. It's a lot better produced. It is a lot more, it's one of the much more, it's, oh my god, I don't know what to say now. I'm sorry. Yeah, better written songs, a lot more higher quality production, and so on. I mean, I love the pumped up riffs from the song The Jester Race. I love the insane fast beating drums, like with the song December Flower. Another instrumental track, Rayfear. I mean, this is an album, this is one of those albums where it's not, none of the songs are skippable, I would have to say. It's got to be one of the most important metal albums in history. Not just the 90s, not just Megadeth, best metal, one of the best metal albums in general. Like, if you listen to metal and you haven't listened to this album, you better start listening to this album, like, soon. You know what? No, I take it back. Right now. Listen to it right now if you haven't listened to it. So yeah, guys, 5 out of 5. This album is just perfect. Every single song. I consider this to be a Megadeth of Ride the Lightning, or Rust in Peace, I would say. That's how I would compare this to. So, yeah, amazing album. From start to finish. No skippable tracks. Definitely a Megadeth classic. If not, metal classic. I should say that. End of discussion. Alright guys, next up we got is Whoracle, released November 18, 1997 off of Nuclear Blast Records. As we know, this is a concept album which describes the past, present, and the future of the planet Earth. As we know, the song Jalem is a foreshadowing of main concepts where society is crushed and broken after an apocalyptic event. As we know, this lyrical concept towards it, like the Hive and Jester Script Transfigured, describing the technology of advanced society in a utopian world which is demolished by human nature in the next two songs. As we know, they got a Depeche Mode cover, Everything Counts. And yeah, it has some 2 bonus tracks that I think they released from an EP that came out a few months ago. There's 2 called Goliath's Disarmed Davids and Acoustic Medley. For some reason on the LP, that acoustic medley is retitled as Recycles, and it's on the tracks between The Hive and Jester Script Transfigured for some odd reason. But anyway, and for some odd reason, those songs were included on the Jester Race reissue versions for some odd reason. I don't get it. And Gyroscope was also included on Jester Race reissue, which is odd. But anyway, back to the album. Yes, another amazing album for the band. Again, concept album, amazing songwriting throughout. I have to say, this is a really impressive follow-up to Jester Race. But, sorry Whoracle, you're not my favorite album. Whoracle would probably be at 3 or 4 in my list. But, yeah, I thought it's a very strong album. Again, it's a concept album. Amazing songwriting as always. But then there's a lot of great songs that are memorable, such as Episode 666. Whoracle is another great track, which is an instrumental. Really great instrumental. I do like their Depeche Mode cover, Everything Counts. Dialogue with the Stars is another great instrumental. Food for the Gods is one of my favorites. I also love Jodun. Gyroscope is great, too. Like, almost all tracks are just really amazing, to tell you the truth. So, the little criticism I have is they could have put acoustic medley in the album, even though I know it's on the LP bonus tracks and such. I think they should probably put that in the album. Like, maybe, I think it would be a perfect way to close the album, to tell you the truth. Along with Goliath's Disarmed David, even though I don't think the lyrical content matches to it, but I feel like acoustic medleys could be a great closing track to the album. But then again, that doesn't take away my loving towards this album. It doesn't take away the fact of being a classic album and such. So yeah, I still think it's an amazing album. Still, no skippable tracks whatsoever. So I'm going for a 4.5 out of 5 on this album. I think it's an amazing album. I wouldn't argue if some people would give us a 5 out of 5 or such. I wouldn't argue on that, but for me, it's a 4.5. Such an amazing album. There we go. Again, amazing album, start to finish. Great concept album, as for sure. So there we go. Next up, we got his Colony, released May 19th. No, I'm sorry, May 21st, 1999, off of Nuclear Blast Records. Again, another amazing album, just like the previous albums. The album, as you may know, the lyrical content in this album deals with religion, society, and spirituality from the somewhat negative light of Embody the Invincible and the New World to a more negative zombie incorporation and Scorn. And I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of like this album a little bit more than Horacle. Mainly because it has a lot more heavier sound approach. And the songs are a bit more faster, it's more energetic, and it kind of has a bit heavier sound to it. It's got some really classic songs. Love, Embody the Invincible, Ordinary Story, Scorn, Zombie Incorporated. I also love the remake track, Behind Space 99. I thought it was such an amazing track. Pretty much all songs in general. So, yeah, I fucking love this record. I love this era of In Flames. As you may know, I think this is their first In Flames album to consider this as a classic lineup, as you may know, and that lineup stayed the same until Sound tried to play, until the last album to have that lineup is A Sense of Purpose. But anyway, yeah. Again, amazing record. I just love this era of In Flames. Why do you have to change your style after Clayman? Why? And they have never come back to that ever since. But yeah, guys, I give this album a very strong 4.5 out of 5. Kind of lean towards a 5. It's such an amazing record. Pretty much a masterpiece too. I don't know what else to say. Again, I love this era I love the classic era of In Flames, to tell you the truth. So there's that. I have no else to say. I wish they didn't change their sound, like, really. Alrighty, guys, next up we got is Clayman, released July 3rd, 2000, off of Nuclear Blast Records. As you may know, this is the final album in the classic era. Definitely. In fact, I think this is their second best album behind Jester Race. I love everything about this album. Starts, as you know, the lyrical content is different. Again, like usual, deals with depression and internal struggles. Yeah, I think this is their most popular album, especially with the song Only for the Weak, which is probably their most according to streaming services like Spotify, this is their most popular song. But I love the song Bullet Ride. Pinball Map is great. As a Future repeats today, every single song. Clayman, Brush the Dust Away, Swim, everything about it. Amazing fucking album. Like, there's really no debate here. So, yeah, not a single skippable track. Love the production. Love the songwriting. Everything about this album. So, I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. Fuck it. Yeah, such a perfect record. Yeah, I mean, not a very strong 5 out of 5. Kind of leaning down towards a 4.5, but it's a fucking perfect record. Fuck it. I give this a 5 out of 5. Alrighty, next up we got is Reroute to Remain, released September 3rd, 2002, off of Nuclear Blast Records. As you may know, this is the album where the band decided to change their sound. And as you may know, at the time, it upsetted many of the fans as such. And because it has more of a radio mainstream attention, it's got some elements of metalcore, alternative metal, and such. Even though the melodeath elements is still there, it definitely changed the sound almost not, I wouldn't say completely, like massively. But as for me personally, I really enjoy this album. From start to finish, I would not complain a thing about this album. It's very consistent. It's still consistent with their previous album. I really love the song Cloud Connected. Trigger's a great one. I love System. Drifter is kind of sound like a similar sound from their previous albums, I would say. Transparent is a pretty underrated track as well. As we know, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say any of the songs are skippable. I kind of like the acoustic tracks as well, from the song Dawn of a New Day and Metaphor. Although I can understand some people are disappointed with this album, the change, but to be honest with you, this album really does hold up. If you think it has a different mindset, it actually sounds great throughout the album, but I can still agree that this album is definitely not as strong as their first 5 records. Yes, the album still has great songwriting, it has great riffs, and it has really great production as well. And then again, the album does really hold up very well, but I can understand why some people dislike it because of the change of the sound. But as for me, I'm really not complaining about it, even though I can understand why many people see it. So I would go for a 4 to 5 on this album. I think it's really great. Not a very quite strong one. Maybe lean towards a 3.5. Again, I prefer the albums before that. I still think it's a really great album, and this album really does hold well. Next up we got is Soundtrack to Your Escape, released March 29, 2004, off of Nuclear Blast Records. And yeah, this one has a lot of changes with this album. As you know, it's got more electronic sounds than their previous album. The album now has moved completely to drop A tuning. I know most of the songs from the last album uses drop A, and they pretty much use drop half A, I should say A, whatever it is, A, B, or something. Because their previous album used C standard tunings. And as you know, this album is pretty much like a mixed album. Like, some people love this album, some people hate it. For me, I think it's solid, but I don't love it. I mean, the songwriting is a lot more simplistic than their previous albums, and it does work for the most part. I mean, the riffs are nice and heavy, and there's a lot of songs that do really stand out, like especially with the opening track, Friend. That song is really heavy as well. That one is a banger. So is the song Superhero of the Computer Rage. I definitely do enjoy that one a whole lot. I also find My Sweet Shadow a pretty creepy song, mainly because of the creepy lullaby on the verses as well. Even though it does have a very heavy chorus and such. Even though The Quiet Place is not one of my favorite songs, but I do think it's a solid pick as a single for the album. Kind of like define the sound of this album, I should say. But overall, I think it's a fine album in general, so I'm going to go for a 3 to 5. I think it's a fine record. I don't love it or anything. It's definitely far from their best. But then again, I do like the riffs. I do like the sound. It kind of has this industrial sound for the most part on the songs. But then again, I do think it's solid. I pretty much enjoyed it for the most part. So there we go. It's pretty far from their best, but it's far from their worst, I should say. But overall, it's a strong record. Alrighty, next up we got is Come Clarity, released February 3rd, 2006, off of Ferret Records. As we know, it brought back some of the heavier taupe moments that was pretty much absent from their last album. As their last album, it focuses more on the riffs and such. This album, it brought back more of a guitar harmonies, pretty much what they do with their original, of their usual sound. It kind of it's pretty much a combination with their early materials with their last 2 materials, I should say. As we know, the song Dead End brought a female vocalist, which features Lisa, I can't pronounce her last name, but I thought it's a really strong track. It has a much higher tempo sound, and such. Starts off with the song Take This Life. Such an amazing fucking song. Come Clarity is good, even though it's a ballad track. Leeches is a very strong track. Reflect the Storm. My main criticism on the album is definitely the closing track. Our Bedtime Story is scaring everyone. I honestly don't like that song very much, to tell you the truth. The intro takes way too long. It's a major drag, but as for the rest, I definitely do enjoy it. Very hard punching riffs. It's got some great drum work. Both clean and harsh vocals from Anders is great. But yeah, I really am not complaining much about this album. I'm going to go for a 3.5 out of 5. I would consider this to be their last good album for a long time. Because the next couple of albums, I may have some criticism. Because their next album is pretty much the start of their butt rock era. But we'll get to that in a bit. But as for Come Clarity, I think it's a strong album. Again, the only criticism I have is the Bedtime Story is scaring everyone. Don't like that track. Intro, it has very loud ambient sound. The intro is too long, but other than that, really good album. That's all I have to say. Next up, we got is A Sense of Purpose, released April 1st, 2008, off of Nuclear Blast. I'll say this. It's okay. So we know this is the start of the butt rock era, I would say, even though it's not as butt rock as their next few albums. But at least this album, I kind of do have some enjoyment off of it. So we know this is the last album to have Jesper Stromblad as their guitarist, which Lace. And as you know, he is the last original member for the band, as he left the band in 2010, which is ending the lineup they have since Colony. And as you may know, I'll say this. There are some songs I just don't give a shit about, like Alias, I just don't care for. Disconnected, it's a lot of filler in this album. But I'll say this, a lot of songs did kind of get the job done. Like, I definitely love the song The Chosen Pessimist, which is their longest song, and I definitely dug the song. I thought the song was amazing. The song after that, Sober and Irrelevant, was pretty cool. It has a lot heavier sound to it, with a melodious sound to it. And I do like the lead single track, The Mirror's Truth, which it did kind of hit. And maybe the closing track as well, March to the Shore. But as for the rest, it's fine, I guess. It's just something I won't go back to. My main criticism on this album is probably Jesper's clean vocals on about half of the songs from the album. His vocals kind of sounds like he's trying to be like Chino Moreno from Deftones. And the production on this album sounds a bit polished at times. But the guitar riffs are still there. It's got some nice guitar solos. I'm not going to complain about the solos as well. Drumming sounds like kind of polished at times, but yeah, I mean, the album itself, it's whatever. I'm going to go for a 2.5 out of 5. Again, it's not as clever. It's not as memorable, but then again, it's kind of consistent. It's still kind of consistent. I'll give it that. So, yeah, I mean, some very standout tracks, like, again, The Chosen Pessimist. Definitely one of my favorite In Flames songs from the post-Clayman era. So there's that. I'll give it that. That's definitely the most standout track from the post-Clayman era of In Flames. But as for the album in general, other than a few songs I mentioned, it's okay. It's fine. It's whatever. It's an okay album. It's just, I would say it's definitely the worst one in the 2000s, but the album is just, moving on. And I'm not looking forward to moving on either, but it's whatever. Alrighty. Next up, we got is Sounds of a Playground Fading, released June 15, 2011, off of Century Media Records. Now, before I review this album, I'm going to let you guys know, I've listened to this, whenever I start going back, start listening to In Flames albums, I've listened to this album about 4 times. I'm going to let y'all know before you guys start writing in the comments saying, oh, you need to think about this. You need to have a better mindset. I listened to this album 4 times. Whether it's different mindset or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I am not a fan of this record. At all. Not a good album. Now, yes, I understand that what they're trying to do with this album. Yes, Jesper left the band as such. They want to do something different. Yada, 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 yada. But that doesn't make it good. I'm sorry. It's not good. And it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't matter. That's no excuse. Compared to Sense of Purpose, where Sense of Purpose does have this butt rock sound, even though at least it did have some sound that kind of does sound like In Flames on there. But with this album, not so much. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The album is just, it's a lot more predictable. It's not very memorable, to tell you the truth. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not give a shit about Deliver Us. I didn't care for All For Me. Sounds of His Playground Fading has a nice melodic intro, I guess. I didn't care for Fierce Weakness. The Puzzle could be a much better track, much better song. Even though it's one of the best songs of the album, it could do so much better. It would be a much better song if that song has no clean vocals at all. I mean, let's be honest. The way Jesper, not Jesper, Anders tries to sound, has this dirty sounding clean vocals in his sound, just sounds cringe, to be honest with you. And the solos from Where the Death Sheeps Dwell, I say it's fine, I guess. And don't get me started with the song Darker Times. I got a better plan. Stop it. Anders, stop it. If you can't sing it with clean vocals, don't do it. Do it with harsh vocals. If you can't make harsher, heavier sounds with clean vocals, don't do it at all. And Enter Tragedy could be just like The Puzzle. It could be a much better track if Jesper doesn't use clean vocals and it's all harsh vocals. It would be a much better track if there's no clean vocals, to tell you the truth. Although, I do have some few positives I can say about this album. I mean, few of the riffs aren't bad. Few of the solos are fine. I mean, I do find the interlude, Jesper's Door, as a nice farewell from Jesper as he exits the band to the band members. I feel like it's a nice farewell to it. As for the rest, yeah, I'm not feeling it. So, I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for doing this, but I'm going to give this a 1.5 out of 5. Maybe leaning towards a 2. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a terrible album in general. I mean, yeah, I would say Darker Times is kind of terrible. But the album itself, I wouldn't say it's a piece of shit album or anything like that. I just think it's very, very stepped down compared to the previous albums. And look, if you guys like this album, that is absolutely fine. Again, these reviews are based on my thoughts, not me telling you what to listen and not what to listen, okay? Let me make that clear. If you want to listen to this album, go right the fuck ahead. If you like this album, more fucking power to you. That's all I have to say. You like this album? Cool, but I don't. End of story. So yeah, but I'll say this is not their worst album. I'll say it that. It's not their worst album. We'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, guys, I know some people say this is Reroute to Remains Part 2 or something. No, it's not. It sounds nothing like Reroute to Remain. No, it sounds nothing like that. I don't know where you're getting this from, but no. But yeah, guys, 1.5 out of 5. Album's bad. End of story. End of discussion. Alright, guys. Next up, we got is Siren Charms, released September 9, 2014, off of Sony Music. And guys, we came to the point where, in my opinion, I personally think this is In Flames' worst album. Alright, guys. Next up, we got is Siren Charms, released September 9, 2014, off of Sony Music. And guys, we came to the point where, in my opinion, I personally think this is In Flames' worst album. You know what? I'm not going to bother doing a full detail review because there's a few albums to go, and the video is taking too long, and I don't want to bother reviewing the song, so I'll say this. Production sucks. Guitar riffs are very boring. Don't get me started with Anders' vocals. It's worse than Darker Times from their last album. His clean vocals sound very whiny. He tries to sound like Maynard James Keenan from Tool. I'm not trying to say Maynard James Keenan is a bad vocalist. It sounds like he's fucking ripping him off. When he tries to sound like, it sounds so fucking whiny. Like, really? Not even the highlighter songs do a fucking goddamn thing for me. When the world explodes, fuck that song. Rusted Nail, fuck that song. Through Oblivion, fuck that song. Paralyzed, fuck that song. Every single song, fuck them. So yeah, fuck this album in general, and especially their butt rock materials. This is the same fucking band who did Jester Race. It went from one of the best materials they ever did. Not only that, like I said before earlier in the video, one of the best materials in metal history. They went from that to this fucking piece of dog shit. I'm giving this a very strong 1 out of 5. Maybe lean towards a 0.5. This album is a fucking embarrassing of an album. Despite the fact how they went from Melodeath to fucking butt rock. It's just so fucking embarrassing. Like, really. Siren Charms, easily their worst album. It's so embarrassing. Alright, next up we got is Battles, released November 11th, 2016, off of 11-7 Records. Now, yes, this album sucks too, just like Siren Charms, but I don't think it's as bad as their last album. Why? I guess it has slightly better production, and Anders doesn't have this whiny Maynard James Keenan ripoff vocals. At least it doesn't have that. And there's a few moments where it has a little bit of a Melodeath sound, like a similar to their Back to Roots sound a little bit, but it's barely a lot. It does have a little bit of that, but not so much. But again, the album is still predictable. It's boring. It's formulaic. None of the songs do. Riffs are still boring. I mean, production is, I say it's a bit better. Again, I do think it's a little bit better. But the album in general, I mean, come on. Wallflower, I think it's their second longest song they excuse me. The second longest song they made. I expect to have something that really this song to really stand out. But no, it didn't stand out. It didn't. It's another fucking boring track, just like the rest of the songs on the album. Absolute snooze fest. I don't like this album either, so I'm going for a 1.5 out of 5. If Siren Charms didn't exist, then this would be their worst album. So yeah, I don't want to review this album. Next up we got is Eye of the Mask, released March 1st, 2019, off of 11-7 Records, / Nuclear Blast Records. Now, thoughts generally? Still a butt rock album, but I'll say this, it's better than their last few albums, but it's really not saying much. I mean, it has a little bit more of the heavier roots than it did on Battles. Like, I mean, there are some songs that are quite one of their strongest in a long time. Like, I do appreciate the song Voices, I Am Above is solid. This Is Our House is actually, that song did kind of hit. I'll give it that. And then there are several songs that kind of sound similar as their previous few albums. But they're not as bad as I thought it would be. But it's not. But it's far from good, I would say. I'm going to go for a 2 out of 5. Probably lean towards a 2.5. Again, it's an improvement, but not a lot. I mean, there are several songs that do hit, but then again, most of it is kind of a filler fest. So, yeah, I don't really have a full detailed review on this album since most of it is not very memorable, but I can say it's a bit of an improvement. Next up, we got is Foregone, released February 10th, 2023, off of Nuclear Blast Records. In Flames is back! Yes! Yes! This is what we want! An actual In Flames album. Although, I mean, not the In Flames Return to Roots that I kind of wanted. It's kind of like the Roots from the 2000s, but even though I rather prefer them go back to their 90s roots, I'm not complaining on this one. It's a major improvement. Much more improved than Eye of the Mask did. They brought back Melodeath sounds. It completely abandoned all the butt rock materials, all the embarrassing materials. They really stepped their game up. And I think a few of the band members left. I think they brought in Chris Broderick, who did Megadeth's albums, Endgame and such. But yeah, I would say I really like this album. I think this is their best album in almost 18 years. It's very, very strong. I love the song State of Slow Decay. Great Deceiver's great. I like both parts of Foregone. They're definitely... In Flames is officially back. Hell, those last few hours don't even deserve to be called In Flames. But yeah, I definitely think this is their strongest in a long time. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I mean, it may have a little... Okay, maybe a little bit of butt rock-ish sound, but not a lot. Anders really did improve his vocals a whole lot on this album. And I believe they brought in the new drummer, Tanner Wayne. He only did one song from the previous album, I the Mask. He was fucking phenomenal in the drums, especially with the song Foregone Part 1 with those fucking blast beats and shit. He was amazing on the drums. Like, I think they picked the right choice for him. I think this is their best... You know what? I think this album's a bit better than Come Clarity. I think this is their best album since Reroute to Remain, to tell you the truth. I prefer this over Sense of Purpose. I prefer this over than Sounds of the Playground Fading. I sure as hell prefer this over Silent Charms. Well, Silent Charms can go fuck itself. I prefer this over Battles. I prefer this over I the Mask. I even prefer this over Sounds of the Playground Fading and Come Clarity. Yeah, I know. This is their best album in over 20 years, I should say. So, I'm going to go for a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a really good album. I could give this a 4 if they could have take out one song or two that kind of sounds a little butt rockish, but other than that, really good album. I hope they keep it this way after this album. I hope this is not a one-off thing, because if they went back to its butt rock materials in their next album, I'm going to be really sad and very disappointed, because I hope their next album... Wouldn't it be great if they really go back to their actual old roots, like from Lunar Strain to Clayman, that era of In Flames? Can we have at least one more album that sound like that, In Flames? Like, please, next album. But yeah, guys, really good album. I really liking this. Alright, guys, so that is my reviewing and rating every In Flames album. Golly, this took me a few hours to record this whole entire video. I better get some decent views off of this. So, yeah, guys, I'm doing Whitechapel next. I'm reviewing every Whitechapel next. I know Market Punk wants me to review every Lacuna Coil. I'm doing this as a return for him, as I wanted him to rank Opeth albums. I'll probably do Arch Enemy and Machine Head as well. I know Machine Head has a new album on the way too. I think it's coming out April 25th. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, guys, subscribe for more content. A lot of that shit. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. That's the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the fuck out of here. So I'm out.